The goal of GRIDLIFE has always been to build a community. And while their events center around cars and racing, their mission has been put to the test with the current state of the world. While race car engines have been quiet for months now, it's become abundantly clear that the GRIDLIFE mission was never just about cars. It's about people. In some ways, we're disappointed with the reality of rescheduled events. In other ways, the microcosms of communities within GRIDLIFE have been highlighted in times of need. GRIDLIFE iRacers uses the iRacing.com simulator to continue racing during the off-season or between events. So while we wait for some semblance of reality return, this group of sim racers will take to 4 of America's beloved racing circuits to continue to do battle with their friends and the rest of the GRIDLIFE community in the 4-round Quarantine Cup. Welcome to GRIDLIFE Gaming, Sim TV, and the virtually preserved Circuit of the Americas. Tonight, the cars are virtual, but the racing is very, very real. Welcome to GRIDLIFE Gaming and Sim TV. My name's Kyle Heyer, here with Abron Schmucker from GRIDLIFE. So excited to get this one underway and run GRIDLIFE iRacers on the GRIDLIFE channels this time, Abron. So welcome to Sim TV for your first time up here in the booth, calling some wheel-to-wheel action. Going to be very exciting.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
So we're gonna head down to the racetrack right now, and we got a wild format tonight, so there's a lot to explain. So we'll head down there right now and take a look-see at who's in the track tonight. So 60 drivers, actually we had almost 100 drivers earlier tonight, set up for qualifying to run the quickest lap they could around Circuit of the Americas. The top 60 drivers were given a password to connect to the session, but only 40 will race tonight. We're gonna race heat-style format. So we're gonna have 2 heat races, each with 30 drivers. The top 15 will move on to the feature 20-minute event at the end of the night. And then we'll have a consolation race for the bottom 15 at each heat, where the top 10 of that race will move on to the feature. So there's a lot going on tonight, Abe, but this is gonna be a lot of fun. Again, it's something a little bit different. Obviously not real racing, which we're disappointed we don't have, but Circuit of the Americas in the digital world is a little bit less expensive to run at as well. So practice underway, and Rob Casera at the top of the board, Ken Alseal, Austin Cobb, and a lot of the drivers you're familiar with. How about Ryan Kristoff in his number 46? He's here tonight. Patrick Gallagher's here. Miles Gilsinger's here. Tom O'Gorman is buried down in the listing somewhere. If I could try to find him, I'm not sure.
A lot of familiar names in this grid.
Yeah, Tom O'Gorman is here. DJ Alessandrini as well. So it's a big portion of the GRIDLIFE Touring Cup field is here tonight, Abe. So we talk a lot about the sim and real life and the differences between the two, but how about the similarities? I think we're seeing a lot of the same names kind of show themselves in these sessions. Jeremy Swenson's out here as well.
Absolutely. I think a lot of the drivers, especially within the GLTC run groups within the GRIDLIFE reality series, I guess, tend to try and stay sharp by playing this and use it as an opportunity to hang out with their friends when they're not at the track.
Yeah, I think when they're not at the track, a lot of drivers participate in the GRIDLIFE iRacers League year-round, whether it's off-season or whether it's during the season between events. But tonight it's a little bit different. It's certainly not a replacement for GRIDLIFE Touring Cup, but we hope to get back to that as soon as possible. But I mentioned Tom O'Gorman. He's in the field. Ryan Carwell and DJ Alessandrini in the number 91. This is a driver that came into GRIDLIFE Touring Cup last year and immediately found success, and he attributes sim racing to a lot of that success. Talk to me about what you've seen out of DJ and his performances the first season of GRIDLIFE Touring Cup.
I think DJ is kind of an incredible story because he came through GRIDLIFE with very little on-track experience, but came to our series with a race car and a whole lot of iRacing experience, and found a natural home and immediately got a quick start and has been competing strong since he got started.
So taking a look at Circuit of the Americas, this is a 3.5-mile racetrack with 20 turns. It's challenging technically, but also track limits here. I mean, obviously now in the real world, there's a lot of those anti-cut curbs installed around the facility. Here at iRacing, we only have those in the S's and in turn 19. There's turf everywhere else. So when you're on track, there is definitely an expectation that you're going to use as much track as possible. Tonight, we're not going to really be enforcing track limits, but coming from a GRIDLIFE group, what are your thoughts on track limits and how are they kind of enforced at Circuit of the Americas?
I think when we ran in February, track limits, especially here coming up to turn 1, was the the white line on the outside of the turn. It turns out if you can run much wider than that, it's possible to really slingshot and add speed coming out of turn 1. So that was an area that we had paid special attention to, and in one case had given James Houghton a penalty for a following race for a break exceeding track limits.
I was actually going to mention the Houghton penalty because that was certainly interesting when we saw that. That was really the first time we had seen a penalty applied during a race weekend. I think Adam Jabay, who's not here tonight, mentioned I think Jornstad still has to serve a penalty from Road America from last season as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because you kind of get to see things from as many angles as possible, and scrutineering and kind of being a race steward for events like this at the smaller scale can be really challenging, because a driver may say, well, this is what I saw and here's what I was dealing with at the time. And what's interesting in James Houghton's case was that it was kind of a 50-50 call, and it really could have gone either way. We saw that he exceeded track limits and got an advantage, and also we saw that the number 2 car that he was trying to avoid was certainly close, and he may have been using an invasive maneuver to stay away from that car and maintain kind of a contact-free race. So it was really interesting to see how it kind of broke out.
Luke McGrew, another driver new to GLTC this season, and he just built a brand new, well, I guess not a brand new, but brand new to him, NC Miata, kind of along the lines of what Derek Yarbrough had built. So Luke, another driver, another convert from the Time Attack part of GRIDLIFE, and now has moved over to GLTC. Talk to me a little about the Time Attack drivers and what you've seen out of them moving to the wheel-to-wheel format.
I think it's a different challenge. It's probably no secret that I have spent more time in the passenger seat of a Viper ACR than pretty much any other car within GRIDLIFE. Luke is a consummate ride-along giver, and his Viper ACR is exceedingly fast, and he is a really, really talented driver. But as the 2019 season winded down, he was looking for a new challenge. The track mod run group within Time Attack is very, very strong, and he had gotten to the point where he was really at the limit of potential of the ACR without going absolutely crazy on modifications. Because the car almost makes, I think, about 700 horsepower already, and he was in a position where he kind of needed a little more kick and really didn't want to at the time. So he was looking for GLTC as a new challenge and an opportunity to pursue something different.
So we got about 3 minutes left in practice before we have a 10-minute closed qualifying session. What that is you every driver will get their own private racetrack. Don't we all wish we had that to ourselves, Abe? Private Circuit of the Americas for 10 minutes to run the fastest lap you can. That will set you into your heats. Heat 1 will be the drivers from the evens, and Heat 2 will be the drivers from the odds. So it'll be 2, 4, 6, 8, all in one heat, and then the other heat will be 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. Again, the top 15 from each of those heats will move straight to the feature event at the end of the night, a 20-minute race around COTA. So 2 minutes left in this practice session. We have 60 drivers here. 44 have laid down a lap time, the last of which is Eric Catil in the 82, but I take it that he hasn't really run an actual lap yet. So here he is on track, a little bit of damage, though it's at 82. He'll get repaired before the race starts.
So if you follow Eric Catil Racing on Instagram, he's been doing an incredible amount of work to his EG, where he's recently given up on his B series and has moved to K-Power, and he's kind of an engineer, or he is an engineer by training, and the amount of thought that he puts into building his race car is really incredible, and the build quality on the work that he does is kind of sensational. So if you're not following Eric, you definitely should.
Absolutely. There's a lot of drivers. We were actually discussing on Discord earlier today. Tom and Eric were kind of joking with each other about who follows who more. But Eric Catil jumps up to 10th on the practice board there with a 232.229, which are about 3 or 4 seconds off the times we saw in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup here a few months ago. I think the track might have been a little cooler down there at that time, but I think the lowest times we're going to see are about the low to the 31s to high 30s. Robert Casera, a 231.1 at the top of the board right now in his number 177.
It's a lot of pace out of a little bit slower race car chassis. Within the Time Attack fields, the upper echelon of street-worthy cars are in the like mid to low, like 222 to 225 range. So seeing here these cars in the low 2 minute 30, 32 range is really impressive.
There's Brad Adams, and that is a very distracting livery he's got on that car tonight, kind of a tie-dye color scheme. Chris Boersma in the K-tuned chassis. Look at him.
It's looking really sharp.
It's a beautiful race car, and I think he had Rob Wilkinson paint that up for him this week, and Rob's been doing that a lot.
That's right.
Yeah, for a lot of drivers he's been painting and very busy this week, so you can hit him up, and for a small price, he'll paint you up your real-life race car, and he does a spectacular job. Zach Grant's here, runs 1970 Volvo 144 in GLTC, and in a 2016 MX-5 tonight, so a little bit different, I'd say. So we got about 11 seconds left in practice here, so in just a moment, we're going to turn the drivers over for qualifying. And we'll also go over a track map to take a look at all 20 corners we have at this facility, because there are a lot of them. And again, I mentioned how technical this facility is. In a faster car, this place is a joy to drive because you can use all the downforce. In a slower car, it just takes forever to get around here, but the draft is going to be key, especially leading onto the very long back straightaway here.
Agreed. And now with the GLTC race that happened here in February, one thing that we saw that was really interesting was how important the start can be to getting a really good pull up to turn one and get clean out of one while everyone else kind of shuffles in the back.
So let's take a look at our track guide for today's race. Again, a 3.45 mile course, 20 corners around here, and it all starts with a very, very sharp uphill climb towards turn number one. That's an incredibly tight corner, great passing opportunity, but you have to be real careful on these starts, especially 3 and 4 wide. Then you head down a hill into turn 2, all the way full throttle here in these MX-5s, through the S's. That's really 2 through 9. And it's kind of a downhill, then an uphill section at the very end of that. You're going to be hugging the inside of the curbs, but you don't want to hit the anti-cut curbs. They'll send your car for a little bit of a flight. Then down through turn 9, you'll head a cake through 10. That's also flat in this car, into the braking zone for turn 11. A long back straightaway all the way up to turn 12. That's a great passing opportunity where drivers can use the draft to get an advantage on the inside. Then the arena section is kind of what we call that, 12 through 15. Very tight and twisty. That's where these cars really live. Then 16, 17, 18, the right-hand carousel that brings you to the last 2 corners on the racetrack, turns 19 and 20. 2 left-handers, 19, a lift down to maybe 3rd gear, potentially 4th if you're carrying speed, and then turn 20 is down to 2nd gear, which will finish up a lap here at Circuit of the Americas. So that is a wild lap. It takes you about 2.5 minutes, which is quite a long time, but it's going to feel like nothing when you only have 20 minutes to get to the front of the field.
Absolutely.
So down to the racetrack again, we're going to head back over there as qualifying has just begun. Every driver gets their own time on the racetrack, and this is where you really get to show your stuff. Ken Houseal's an autocrosser out of the Pennsylvania region, and he's incredibly good at hot lapping, and it's going to be very important for him to get a good lap time here. So we'll run on board for a minute here and just kind of get an idea of the inputs that we're seeing out of this car. And down to 2nd gear, going to clip the curbs on the inside. This is through turn 15, throttling up and heading towards that carousel. And the track has actually gained a lot of bumps. It was scanned for iRacing in 2012, Abe, but got a lot of character and a lot of bumps in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think actually they had this year had made some adjustments to the surface so that Formula One will come back in 2021 to a very clean and refreshed surface. But there was bumps were a thing, especially on the straight, that I had heard as commentary. This is a different challenge than it has been in years past.
Obviously, a lot of the track got repaved. It was a section on the backside of the course that got redone, but some of the course was left untouched. The straightaway was one of those places, so the old pavement's still there. Ken Houseel comes on through to begin his first lap of, you'll probably get at least 2, and probably no more than 3. Patrick Gallagher is here tonight. He's got IMSA racing experience in his number 14, and I think we have to look at some of the star power. Patrick Gallagher, Tom O'Gorman. We couldn't get Kenton Cook in here tonight, but there are some IMSA drivers in here, Abe, that are going to take it to the sim racers, but I think there's a lot of drivers in here that might not have as much real-world experience, and this is a great platform to kind of get your feet wet in racing the pros.
Well, in some cases, I think it also levels the playing field. So much of pro racing at the higher levels depends on what your backing is and whether or not partners that support the programs and finding a ride. And here you find that people that don't have the same amount of resources or network can get into sim racing and compete at some of the higher levels.
Jeremy Swenson on track, another driver from the GRIDLIFE Time Attack series, and he's incredibly talented, not only in the real world, but also in the sim. I've raced him, or had the pleasure of racing him several times in iRacing, and he's an incredibly talented driver, so we'll see what he can lay down. And again, qualifying right now isn't super important in terms of setting you up for the race, because you're really just getting yourself in position for those heat races, which you have to finish in the top 15. So everyone's gunning for a top 15 position in their heat. I'd say you got to start probably in the top 15 or close to it if you want to even have a chance of finishing there, because the starts are going to be so wild.
I believe it, yeah. It's a lot of cars in the field. This should be make for really first lap for sure.
So Swenson works his way around the course. Luke McGrew's out there as well. Andrew Abbott in the 25. He's been running some of the SCCA Esports Super Tour past couple weeks and has found some success there. Paul Darling's out here. Matt Busby in the 35. And I think we all know we would have rather bet at NCM Motorsports Park this past weekend than just on iRacing. But Matt's a good friend of the iRacing crew, and here he is kind of throwing his hat in the ring tonight for some racing.
Matt Busby might also be our favorite track manager. He's such an awesome guy to work with, and he's just like a true racer, really passionate about everything motorsports. And so he's a heck of a driver in real life too, and that's it's really exciting to see.
All right, so 5 minutes left in qualifying here. We got one driver on the board so far. That's Austin Cobb, and he was one of the quickest in practice earlier. And he has a great-looking livery on board this car, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was another Rob Wilkinson creation, just based on the GRIDLIFE decals on the front and side of that car.
Very, very cool looking, for sure.
And his time of 2:31.272. And it's not the quickest lap we've seen today, but it is certainly going to be close to, if not pole position. DJ Alessandrini goes a 2:31.4. That puts him second on the board, a 10.5 behind the 36. Let's take a look at the weather information here for qualifying, just to see what drivers are working with. And it looks like we've got relatively cool conditions for Austin, Texas. 70 degrees ambient, 77 on the surface, and kind of late afternoon skies here as we take a look at the what do you call that thing? The spectator tower over there, Abe?
I think we just call it the tower. I don't know. One thing that I really appreciate, especially from this angle right here, is how much elevation exists on this track, especially coming up to turn one. It's really difficult to appreciate how steep this hill is. And when you're walking it on foot, or you're walking around the perimeter of the track on foot, it's remarkable how much elevation's here. And I don't think you'd expect that from watching it on television. So it's really cool to see that portrayed really well.
Riding on board with Aaron Lichty, he is currently 18th on the board with a 2:33.317, and this is maybe not exactly the car, but a familiar platform in the Miata chassis for Lichty. Again, runs the winning Formula cars over in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup and has had plenty of success there. Wasn't able to run at Circuit of the Americas this year, but I'm really going to be watching him at Road America in the next couple weeks. And we got the schedule here on screen. We got COTA first, then Mid-Ohio, then Road Atlanta, and then Road America is the final round. And that's where I'm going to look for Aaron Lichty to really dominate, because he found a lot of success there. The car may be part of it, but we know how talented Aaron is, and I would expect to see him near the top of the board.
Yeah, it's going to make for a really exciting season. I'm certain of that.
So Lichty down into the hairpin in turn number 11. We'll throttle back up for the back straightaway. Still at the top of the board, it's Austin Cobb. Ken Ausiel goes third quick. Andrew Pilata in the 96 goes fifth quick. Eric Catil in 6th in his number 82. Swenson back in 9th place. We talked about him. Tony Chow and James Cathers, 7th and 8th. Emil Tab, also a winning Formula driver, back in 12th place. He's got his real-world paint scheme on that car as well, so he'll go 12th with a 2:32.874.
Now, in some of the GLTC Facebook groups, there's a constant barrage of making fun of Emil Tab because he continues to be working on getting his race car swapped. So it'll be exciting when that car's actually done. I'm sure it'll be a relief.
I think so. Just to quell the memes for a little while there, Abe, on the Facebook side of things. But Val Di Pietro goes 28th quick. And again, we have 60 drivers all qualifying for these heat races. Only 40 will make it to the feature. There's James Tack in the 72. He'll come across the line and put down, that was a pretty decent lap, but 2:33.8 puts him 27th. And Stephen Couliari in the 27 car also runs on SimTV the Rodenzo Sports Car Challenge, which heads to Road Atlanta tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So that's been an interesting kind of multi-class format race that we've been doing over there for the last couple of weeks. We want to thank, again, GRIDLIFE for allowing us the space and time on their network to stream these events. Again, we've been streaming GRIDLIFE iRacer stuff on SimTV for about a year and a half now, but finally get to do it on the GRIDLIFE pages, Abe, and it feels good. It feels like this is where it belongs, is on the GRIDLIFE channels.
I couldn't agree more.
Part of GRIDLIFE game, GRIDLIFE's new initiative to have kind of a gaming segment. You can check out grid.life for more information. I think we also have gridlife.gg for the gaming stuff. It's all got its own space. There's Tony Chow in the 68 car. So we have 54 drivers that have laid down times. The bottom 5, Vincent Cernuto, Jacob Bessemer, Matt Busby, Miles Gilsinger, and Ryan Christoph, have not yet put in a time. Not a requirement that you do qualify for this. Maybe they just want to start at the back of the field to avoid the carnage, which is perhaps a good idea with turn 1 being so sharp and such a potential for danger here. It's a blind corner, and anything that happens on corner exit, you better have quick hands if you want to miss it.
So from this shot right here, where you see the timing and scoring tower, when we were there hosting GLTC in February, I was standing in pits right next to the timing and scoring pole, and probably had the best view of turn 1 in the house. At least never in my life did I expect that I would be hosting a race at this place, and it was really kind of it felt like a once in a lifetime moment. It was very, very cool.
It's pretty unreal, and this racetrack in particular is one that I don't think is very popular by a lot of standards from a driving standpoint, and I think DJ Alessandrini has kind of shared his sentiments on that. You know, he thinks that it's a fun racetrack in certain conditions, but I just think whether it's fun or not, it's beautiful at the very least. It is a gorgeous facility, perhaps a little pricey at times, but it is a great racetrack, and really excited to kind of get this underway tonight. So, field is gridding up here, and we should be standing starts this evening. And at the front row, it'll be Austin Cobb, everyone lining up on the grid for the first of what will be about 4 to 5 laps. Again, 10 minutes for heat race number 1 here.
Very short sprints.
And you have your starting lineup here on the left-hand side of the screen. Of course, waiting for the rest of the field to grid. We'll have 30 drivers. Matt Busby, the very tail end of this. And look at from on board here, how far away. That's what you're talking about there, Abe, is that huge climb up to turn 1. You can really get a kind of a sense of the scale here, even with Ken House-Seal. That's several stories you got to climb up.
Absolutely. And I think it'll be really interesting to see who comes through clean.
Looking down, the crowd is full. I wish we could say the same about the real world, but unfortunately going to be a little bit longer until we see crowds back at the racetrack. But Austin Cobb waiting for the green flag signal, still waiting for Ryan Christoph, Luke McGrew, Andrew Pilata, and now we're just waiting for Christoph to join at the tail end of the field here. We'll turn them loose. So the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup. This is round number 1 from Circuit of the Americas. This is heat 1 of 2. We'll have a consolation to let 10 more drivers get a chance to put themselves in the feature race, which will be a 20-minute event towards the end of the night. Thanks for joining us here on the GRIDLIFE Facebook page, YouTube channel, or Twitch. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you're on Facebook and new there, make sure you hit the like button on the Facebook page. And if you're on Twitch, be sure to follow if you want to see more of this. We got 4 rounds total, 3 more after this. We'll head to Mid-Ohio next week. Waiting for the green flag. The red lights are on, just waiting for the green. Austin Cobb in command, 10 minutes on the board. And the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup. Green flag flies, and we're racing at Circuit of the Americas. Already 3 wide as they head towards the hill. Look at them 4 wide there as they head towards turn 1.
Unbelievable start.
Now everything gets really condensed. There's a little bit of contact. Emil Tab got a bit of that. Through turn 1, so far so good. Don't see anybody turned around yet. Now we funnel down through turn 2. Everyone's got to find a place to race here, Abe. It's going to get really narrow through the S's, and you cannot run through here side by side unless you're going to get yourself in trouble early. Cobb leads the way through the S's for the first time side by side, and that's the 00 car of Steve Ficacci on the outside, the 18 of Andrew Lanning. They run door to door. Watch out for those yellow anti-cut curbs. The 41 of John Nichols got a piece of one there. Car around in the background, Aaron Lichty has gone for a loop in the 51.
You're looking a little rough there coming over those anti-cut curbs. That's a pretty nasty experience.
And there's a couple different variations that they can run of those anti-cut curbs. And these are the most egregious of them. They're the biggest ones. There's Tom O'Gorman and Jeremy Swenson side by side down towards turn number 11. This is the hairpin right behind him that is the 96 of Andrew Pilata. Takes a look up the inside of O'Gorman, but the first time through the hairpin, what a start. Pretty minimal contact, all things considered.
Yeah, in large part, really clean. It seems like the field's coming through quite nicely, and now we can really get to see some racing and racecraft.
In the background, Luke McGrew in the 29 car. He started his night in 18th place. He's gained one spot, and he's kind of buried in that kind of yellow and black car in the middle of your screen. Some contact up the road. I heard some pushing and shoving. Ruben goes wide at the exit of turn 12. That's Travis Schwenke in the 016, and some damage already to the right front of that car. And again, in iRacing, you can knock out your suspension. You can bend tie rods and that sort of thing and get your steering all out of whack. So keep yourself under control and keep the tires on the car if you want to make it through the rest of this race. Ken Seal has caught Austin Cobb. Battle for the lead as we head through the carousel. Look at the slip angle on that 23 car. A lot of slipping and sliding right now. Getting these cars out sideways, running really low tire pressures to kind of get that car to rotate through 19. There is a track limit out there. If you run beyond that, you will get a slowdown penalty and have to give time up.
Now is that, tell me where that track limit is here, right here.
All right, so in turn 20 there isn't, but if you take a look right there at the outside of the turf, if you go beyond that turf, 4 tires off, it will get you a 1 to 3 second slowdown where you have to give up that amount of time. It's just beyond the edge of the turf, but that's the only corner where it's actually enforced around here. Obviously, apexes are enforced. You can't cut the track, but you can run wide, as you see these front two doing there. In official sessions, that's combated with iRacing's incident system, which basically gives you incident points for exceeding track limits, making contact with another car, making contact with a wall, or spinning out. But in user-hosted sessions, you can kind of configure whether or not you want those restrictions to be applied, and here we do not have those for this evening. A couple minutes in already, 1 lap in the books, and Cobb continues to lead. Tom O'Gorman in 4th, right behind Jeremy Swenson. Pilata in 5th. Zach Rubin back in 6th place. Schwenke, rather, in 7th. And Emil Tab in the 42. He started his night in 8th, and he has gone absolutely nowhere. And he's going to run a little bit wide. Here comes Facacci down the inside in turn 10. Pilata sizing up Tom O'Gorman at the exit. They're all running way wide, using every inch of the racetrack that they can for 2nd place. As Ken Sealan's gone through, so Cobb ran wide, and now Swenson goes through to 2nd place. Let's go back and take a look here at the replay and see if we can find out exactly what caused Cobb to run out wide. I think, well, he was already serving a slowdown maybe here. Here's a look. Oh yeah, you see him off to the side. He must have cut a corner there, Abe, and that's what let Ken Seal get by for the lead.
Wow, it's a tough break.
And trying to keep Tom O'Gorman away from him here as they head through the arena section. And Hausiel now is a 1.5 second lead. There's some trouble in the background. Chris Boersma around. This is turn 12. Take a look at how
It's going to take him quite a while to recover from that lost time.
Yeah, there's a replay there. Just got in a little bit too deep. These cars do have ABS. But couldn't get the car slowed down in time and had a little bit of contact. There off the side of the racetrack is Sam Engelbert in the 12. He's had it off. But Tom O'Gorman still hunting Austin Cobb, but I think Cobb's quick enough to get back to the lead. Oh, that was a big cut over the turn 19 curve. Now through turn 20 for Tom O'Gorman, trying to line up a pass on the 36 car of Austin Cobb. Again, this is a race defined by time, not by the lap counter. So it says 3 laps ago. It's actually 2 this time through. As Ken Hausiel comes down into turn number 1.
How much opportunity do drivers have to modify setups here? Are these fully spec cars, or do they have some ability to tune based on their driving?
They can tune the cars. You can adjust all the basic things you would be able to tune on a Global MX-5 Cup car. So you can adjust your tire pressures. You can adjust the spring perch offsets a little bit, the sway bar, that sort of thing. There's not a lot that you can do to this particular car because there's not a lot you can do to it in the real world either in a series that is as spec as Global MX-5 is. But there's enough here that you can get your car low to the ground. You can kind of tweak it for more oversteer, more understeer, and play with the anti-roll bar settings, to whatever floats your boat. And I think a lot of drivers have done that. But DJ is kind of the setup master for the GRIDLIFE iRacers group and freely distributes his setups for anybody to use. So he doesn't have anything that no one else does. And speaking of DJ, he'll be in the second heat. But I'm interested to see who else is in that second heat because we have a lot of our heavy hitters between Hausil, Swenson, Cobb, and O'Gorman, and Pilata for that matter, all together in this group. There is Zach Rubin and Travis Schwenke. These two have been side by side for the majority of the race. And with the sun setting in the background, they're going to drag race down the long back straight here at COTA.
Yeah, in a car with this low horsepower, I'm sure that back straight is unbelievably long. I'm sure drivers have a time to get something to drink, go get a beer or whatever else. It's a lot of straight track there.
It sure is. Oh, Miltab, a big cut over the inside curb in turn number 12. That's almost certainly going to be a slowdown. You see him pulling over to the side. He has to give that time up, and the sim will tell you you have to give up X amount of seconds, and so Emil will pull over to give that time back. So he lets on through. I believe that's nope, I'm sorry. That is Tony Chow that he just let on through, and Andrew Lanning in the 18 car. So he'll drop 2 spots. For second place, though, Jeremy Swenson's got Austin Cobb all over the back of him, and O'Gorman's coming through as well.
Really, really tight racing right here. Super clean so far.
You look at Tom O'Gorman kind of peeking to the left, the hands inside the windshield of the 36 car of Austin Cobb, working hard. Look at Tombo all the way out there on the turf, braking on that area. And not a lot of grip out there, but just enough to make it work.
Unbelievable. Look at Tom chasing here.
Andrew Pilata in the 96 car diving for the pit wall. Looks like he's got to slow down to serve as well. So some drivers have been a little bit naughty up at the front of the field. White flag flies this time through as we go down into turn 1. Cobb takes a look at Swenson for second and try to get that spot back.
Looks like Swenson's a little bit more than a second back here, so we'll see if he has the ability to keep it clean here on this last lap and close that gap.
Running on board with Tom O'Gorman, and you're just trying to thread the needle through these curbs, through the S's. So far, so good. Remember, the top 15 drivers, so all the way back to George Fike in the 09, the top 15 will move on to the feature event. No ifs, ands, or buts. The bottom 15 will move on to the Consolation Race, where only the top 10 will qualify for the feature event later tonight. So all the way back to Fike, those are the drivers that will make it through. So Luke McGrew right on the chopping block back there. He's got Fike right behind him in that orange and black car. And Jason Kavanaugh in the 67, that's that white machine. He's got to make up 2 seconds if he wants to have a chance to qualify automatically into the feature event. Meanwhile, back for second, Swenson and Cobb, nose to tail still. O'Gorman there as well, but for Ken Hausil, he's 1.6 seconds clear. And all this really guarantees is that he starts on the front row for the feature race.
Really, really close racing at all parts of the field here. It's really great to see that mid-pack and those people battling for the last positions for the main race here.
There's Kevin Zhu in the 243. That's that tan and red car. And the 41 of John Nichols. This is down the long back straightaway. And right behind him, here's Luke McGrew using that draft. And the 243's got some damage, so McGrew should be able to take drivers left here and get on by at least one of these cars. He might take them 3 wide, but opts for drivers right into turn 12 on the brakes and might try to swing the long way around into turn 14.
It's a tough angle. I don't know if it's going to pay off for him.
And swinging back to drivers left and going to try to arc this in a little bit deeper to go back on by Zhu. Again, Luke McGrew, all he needs to do really is not crash because he'll lose this automatic transfer, but he wants a couple more spots so that he starts up a little closer to the front. The 41 of Nichols way wide at the exit of 15. Here comes Kevin Zhu on through, and McGrew trying to go up the middle. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Ken Hausil leads the way, and he started this race from second spot. He'll come out of turn number 20, and Ken Hausil will meet the checkered flag for heat number 1. Jeremy Swenson comes on home in second place. Austin Cobb in third. And the rest of the field will work their way through. Haven't gotten the checkered flag notification yet. They might have been close enough to go one more. So we could be going a whole other lap here, Abe, and it looks like we might.
Well, that was unexpected.
Yeah, so the timing and scoring, they were so close to running that extra 4th lap that we're going one more. And I think, you know what this is actually? This is not because of the time. This is because the session was set by the number of laps, not by time. So what you do in iRacing is you can set it by both, but if the laps is fewer than the time that's allotted, it'll actually go an extra lap. So that wasn't wrong that it was the white flag. We're just going to do another one. So that's one of those weird iRacing inconsistencies But we have a whole other lap to do. Battling for Luke McGrew, he's gotten up to 12th position. And for Jason Kavanaugh, he's got a chance. He's actually in the show now. George Fike falls out. So that extra lap is going to be huge for the 67. He'll lock himself into the show here.
Super small distance between Nichols and Kavanaugh here. 3 racers within 1 second should make race.
Yeah, so John Nichols 13th, Zoo 14th, Kavanaugh 15th, and George Fike back in 16th place. And Fike needs to get back by the 67. He'll still have a chance to qualify in the last chance qualifier, but an automatic qualification is less than 0.3 of a second in front of him. Tom O'Gorman lining up a pass on Swenson. This would be for second. And Tomo drove in way deep. He's going to run all the way out. Track edge. That's turn 12. Fair game, legal move there. And Swenson's trying to close the gap to Hauseal, and he has about 0.3 of a second, but it's not going to be enough to catch Hauseal unless he makes a mistake.
Yeah, I think when you let the lead stretch out that far, it's almost impossible to make it back up in cars that are so similar in performance.
And so that might seal the fate on anyone else trying to steal the win away. Meanwhile, Emil Tab back in 10th place. He's got Andrew Lanning right behind him in 11th. Again, a top 10 won't really mean anything right now other than one starting spot better. Look at Lanning tracking out on the turf and letting those tires spin up. But this time through, Ken Hauseal, there's the checkered flag waving. And behind him for second, not over yet. O'Gorman to driver's right. Braking zone on the outside of 20. Around the outside lane. O'Gorman goes way wide at the exit of 20. Drag race to the line for a second. And Tomo will get it by a nose.
He took it.
Wow, that was good. I'm glad we went the extra lap. For 15th place, here's Kavanaugh and Fike. This, again, is for the transfer position. So if Fike takes a dive right here, it looks like he's going to try. If Kavanaugh holds on to this, he'll move on. No, Fike goes through to 15th. Contact out of the final corner. Drag race to the line for these two as well. Who gets in automatically? It will be Fike in the 09 car. What a move there. And that will
excellent finish.
Lock
Very
him
exciting.
in to the feature race at the end of the night. So well done by George Fike. Ryan Carwile has actually gone around in the final corner. He'll drop down the field. Aaron Lichty goes on by, Charles Boley as well, Jacob Bessemer, and more. Wow. I didn't expect.
Let's hope race number 2 will be as exciting as this one. This was great.
It really was, and again, apologies for the little miscommunication on the white flag. Again, I think this is a session configuration thing that we can have sorted out for next week. But again, it's set by time, or at least it's supposed to be set by time, but I think they have it configured by laps, so the timing wasn't quite right. When you do it that way, it actually gives you the white flag the lap after you hit 0 seconds, not the lap on which you will hit 0 seconds. So that's the little miscommunication there. Now that I know that that's going on, we'll just let the ticker do the job, and it'll tell you when the white flag is. So Rob Casera, DJ Alessandrini sharing the front row for this one. Paul Darling, Eric Catil in the number 82. We've seen him in GRIDLIFE Touring Cup. Think back to this past season where he racked up a whole bunch of race wins, a whole bunch of top 5s. Super impressive driver. So lights are already on for this one. 29 drivers lined up, and another 10 minutes on the board. Here we go. Green flag flies. Heat number 2 for the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup.
Great start for a lot of the drivers there at the front. Let's see if they can come through turn 1 clean.
And the first group was extraordinarily clean. We'll see if this second group can do the same. In the run up to turn 1, a little bit of 3-wide action. How about some 4-wide in the middle of the field? Maybe some push, maybe some shove. I think there is a car around. It's Derek King. And he spun out. There was another car sideways. I'm trying to see who that is. That's Caleb Nichols in the 47. But everyone else clean and green through the S's for the first time. And that is a beautiful train of 30 MX-5s.
All the cars basically single file through the S's. I think it's a little bit difficult to maneuver around drivers coming.
Yeah, this first lap, you're really just trying to survive, and so far so good for most of the field. Alessandrini leads the pack as they head down through turn number 10. Casera, Catil, Cathers, Darling, the rest of your top 5. Mid-pack, lots of battles. Who's in transfer spot already? Whoa, a little bit of slipping and sliding up at the top of the hill there. 3 cars slipping, and I think we got them all through. One a little slow, that was Caleb Nichols. Here he comes over the crest of the hill, so I think we got everybody through.
Now it looks like Alessandrini's livery is, I think that's a throwback to Tom O'Gorman's TCA car from a couple of years ago when he was racing in PW.
You would be correct about that, actually. And there's actually a little Tomo peeking off the rear bumper. You take a look, you can see him right over the Pirelli logo there is Tom's face kind of peeking over that. So a nice throwback. So through turn 12 for the first time. A little bit of three-wide action in the midfield there. And a big group of cars on the brakes. David Santel's middle of this. Oh, there's a bunch of contact down there. And that's David Santel who's around. As well as Bob Casera in the 45 car. Caleb Nichols also went around again. A little bit of pushing and shoving on the opening lap. A little bit more than race one, I'd say, but I think everyone's just trying to get used to these cars, and lap one is, with this many cars on track, is pretty chaotic. So for the lead, though, Alessandrini hasn't gotten away. Casera's still here, knocking on the door for first.
Super tight between cars, what, 1 and 5? Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like it. Kind of a 5-6 car breakaway. I think Patrick Gallagher is hanging on there. So is Stephen Cugliari. That's that white and green Miata right in the middle of your frame now. Then you got to go a little farther back. Find, I think that's Marcus Luttrell in the 92. Yes. And Brad Adams in the 52. Now, Marcus Luttrell in this 92 car is in the transfer position. He is currently 15th. If he loses any spots, he will not lock himself automatically into the feature event.
Super packed action tonight. Lots and lots of good racing on this iRacing.
And it's really impressive. And these guys do this on a weekly basis when they run the normal GRIDLIFE iRacers series. And this is just kind of a continuation of that. So nothing really different other than that. They're just trying to make it more of a show. And that's why they're kind of doing this heat qualifying procedure to kind of narrow down the best of the best. You want to be on the show, you got to qualify your way in, and that's what they're doing now.
Nose to tail here coming through the S's.
Really solid battle for the lead. Eric Cattell right at the back of this group. And Paul Darling in the 155, Patrick Gallagher in the gray and black Goodwrench service car. I think we're going to see a lot of the guys that are more experienced in this MX-5 tend to kind of stay in line. They know that you can't win this race on lap 1 or you can't win it on lap 2. If you're second on the last lap, you got a great chance to win this thing, so you might as well just stay in line and draft together to try to break away. Look at Paul Darling trying to break the draft a little bit maybe. Now he tucks back in line in front of the 14 of Gallagher. Deeper in the field.
Cars number 1 through 3, or positions 1 through 3, are very, very tight. Should be excellent racing here for the rest of the event.
Yeah, about a 1/10 of a second. Whoa, look at Cathers diving in. Contacts Cattell in the rear bumper, and that's a big shot there. Some damage for sure to the front of the 9 car and to the rear of the 82, but they'll continue. And I think Cattell was lucky to catch that and see it coming. Look at the brake rotors glowing on the back of these cars. All the trail braking, a lot of these drivers will crank their brake bias rearward to try to get their cars to slow down that much better.
I'm sure it's a hugely different driving experience having to learn how to manage cars with that much brake bias in the rear.
Yeah, and again, I think this car in iRacing at least is generally pretty stable on the brakes, so you can kind of get away with doing that. I don't think you'd really see drivers doing that in the real world. Obviously, the front rotors would start to glow before the rears ever would. But here in iRacing, the drivers are a lot more aggressive with their brake pedals and using every inch of them. And these cars are difficult, if not impossible, to lock up because of their anti-lock braking, which is not configurable. You cannot turn that off. Well, there goes Cathers all the way around the DRS sign at the exit of turn 20. But really, it's a 6-car breakaway. We have 3 laps to go this time by. DJ Alessandrini leading the way. How about Eric Pennington in 9th place in the 53?
Yeah, it looks like Casera's not making it easy for Alessandrini, keeping things really, really tight up at turn 1.
We actually have a battle for the lead. He's going to run on the outside, but now tucked back in line. This is kind of what we expect. I think if he's got the pace, DJ will know that and let him on through. But if DJ feels like he's faster and can tow the 177, I think we'll see them nose to tail like this. And they've already gained 0.7 of a second on Eric Cattell, who's back right there. And look at him jumping the curb there. Cathers runs wide behind him. So they're starting to build a gap, these front two, and they're doing this on purpose. They're working together in what Darrell Waltrip would call co-opetition.
Really, really great to see how much driver skill translates from iRacing into our GLTC. I think everyone can appreciate how good DJ is both in iRacing and behind the wheel of his GLTC Civic.
I think for a lot of drivers, they come into iRacing and they expect it to be exactly like the real world, and in a lot of ways it isn't. But I think what you can learn is racecraft, right? I mean, obviously the cars aren't going to drive exactly like they do in the real world. You're missing a lot of your inputs, that quote-unquote seat of the pants feel that all the drivers talk about. But what you're not missing is the racing and the action, the racecraft, where you position your car, the strategy. I call racing a chess match at 150 miles an hour, and that's what you're really learning is what moves to play. And that's what Casera's doing right now, and Eric Catil's caught back up to this lead group. So now he's got to make his next move, and I think, again, he'll stick in line until about 2 to go, maybe even 1 to go, then try to get by these front 2.
Great action so far. This is super exciting to watch.
And into turn 15, Casera right on the rear bumper of the 91, and they're all going to track out wide. Cathers has been really using all the pavement that they have here at Circuit of the Americas. Let's check back in on our transfer position, Marcus Luttrell. It's 7 seconds back to Miles Gilsinger in the 28 car, so I think Luttrell is pretty safe right now. And again, he's another driver that runs an MX-5 in the real world. I believe his is an NB, but obviously a different platform, but hanging on right behind Brad Adams in 15th spot. So I think Luttrell will be able to transfer on in to the feature event. So DJ Alessandrini comes out of the final corner. This time through will be 2 laps to go from Circuit of the Americas. You see Cathers over to driver's left, serving another slowdown penalty for cutting the course. And this time through, it does say final lap, but I'm not going to force the white flag on because that's what it did last time, and I don't trust it. So we'll know when the checkers come out when the checkers come out. DJ runs wide at the exit of 1.
Running wide didn't cost him anything there. That's really interesting to see how tight this is here, 1 through 3.
Again, if you can really carry speed, I don't think it's a huge disadvantage, but that's a disadvantage drilling the inside anti-cut curve. You see the damage it did. It made that whole front left fender buckle, Abe. And let's just hope his suspension and steering isn't messed up, because that'll let Casera on by a whole lot easier. Look at Catil fighting for second now on the outside of the 177. And setting up a pass at the exit of 9, here he comes. Gonna have a look into it. No, so he's gonna back off and wait. And into turn 12, or turn 11 rather, he's gonna set up the exit, try to get the power down a little earlier. He's gonna track the car out wide. Pavement runs out, take a little bit of grass, and now line up for the draft on the back straight. Paul Darling moves into 4th. Meanwhile, for 13th place, here's Brad Adams on Jacob Price. He moves on through and has the spot.
Brad Adams races Honda Challenge with his actual race car, so it'll be interesting. That's the front-wheel drive Civic that he has an EG as well, I believe. And so he's probably more used to front-wheel drive race dynamics, and so seeing him here in the Miata is probably a new experience, or at least different experience and refreshing from what he normally does.
He's put himself in the show as well, climbed from 18th to 14th, and he will automatically transfer. Meanwhile, look at these top 3, all right on top of each other, less than 0.5 of a second between them. DJ runs wide at the exit of 15, carousel now, this time through. And who can get that car rotated in? A little bit of trail braking just to set the car up. Catil running a little bit of a wider line, trying to line up 19 and 20.
So close between these 3 drivers. And who's going to make the mistake first?
Final corner for DJ Alessandrini. This should be coming to the white. Casera up the inside, has a look. Big slide there, and there's the white flag this time through. 1 more to go. Paul Darling, I just see him right at the back of the shot, Abe, just maybe planning if these front 3 get racy. He's not far enough behind where he's left in the dust entirely. If these front 3 start racing like they are, Darling could be here in an instant. DJ charges turn 1 a little bit wide. There he goes. Casera now on the turf trying to line him up for the S's.
DJ managed to save his spot there. It didn't cost him anything, and we're coming through the S's where more than likely he'll be safe. So we'll see what happens as they get through around 9 or 10 and come into the braking zone at 11.
And a lot better line for DJ this time through. Not quite as aggressive over the anti-cut curbs. Back to the right, hug this turn nice and tight, then swing back to the left. Now head up to turns 9 and 10. Look at Catil up the inside. And now you're running out of time if you're Catil. You want to be in 2nd place for at least the last 2 corners. He's going to have a run down here into turn 11. I think he's going to take a look. You see him moving over to the left. Big cut there over turn 10. Should be legal. Didn't get all 4 off. Now he's going to have a look down the inside. Here he comes.
Let's see if he gets him in the brake zone here in 11.
Brakes glowing. And they're going to drag race, and DJ's loving this because in his mirror, he sees those cars getting smaller and smaller.
Looks like it's a battle for second here, and it looks like Catil wasn't able to make it stick.
And so now, the entire format for Catil changes. Instead of racing this 177, now he wants to help him out, maybe give him a bit of a push. No, he's still going to look to drivers left, a little bit greedy down the inside for 12. Becerra's late on the brakes, though. Can he get to the inside of DJ? Not quite.
Too far back for Catil to make that move.
Yeah, you need to really be established alongside. Oh, DJ kind of missed the apex for 13. And Becerra is close enough to make a dive here. I don't think he'll have a run into 15, but maybe he'll set something out of the carousel into turn 19, right to the rear bumper of that 91. There's Paul Darling right behind, dragging wheels off in the gravel trap at the exit of 15.
You said it, he's starting to close up right here as these drivers begin to the finish.
Big slide for the 91. 2 more corners left for DJ Alessandrini. Becerra in second. Can he line something up and grab a heat one away? DJ's wide, misses the apex. Big slide through 19. Drag race to turn 20. Here they go. A DJ defensive line. Becerra up the outside. Final corner. Catil drives it in deep. Becerra slip, slide. Catil out wide. DJ wins heat number 2. What a race there for the end there, Abe.
Great finish. It was awesome to see these 3 drivers that close, neck and neck, the entire race.
That was awesome. And meanwhile, back for 15th place, Marcus Luttrell is the last car that will be locked into this event. And Brad Adams will also make it in, Andrew Abbott, Stephen Cugliari, and more. So I was just informed by Tomo that there could potentially be a problem with the way that the Consolation server is set up. So let me just see what he said here. He says there might be a glitch in advancing the Consolation, so let's just see what happens here, Abe. Just kind of the first week of this format, we'll see if it works. Kind of waiting for the session to tick on over as the rest of the cars come on through. Gil Winningham wasn't able to lock himself in, but he'll have a shot, potentially, in the Consolation race here. So, Consolation time. This is the bottom 15 from each of the 2 races. Now we'll head back and grid up for this one. So another 10-minute race, and now we only take the top 10 of this, Abe. And who's starting in 10th? Eric McFarlane. In 9th, Jacob Bessemer. 8th, Val DiPietro. 7th, Erickson Alano. 6th, Zach Grant. 5th, Jeff Lee. 4th, Michael Ross Smith. 3rd place, George Ratchis. 2nd, Miles Gilsinger. And 1st, Jason Kavanaugh. Some drivers notable that are beyond 10th spot. Gil Winningham is in 12th. Aaron Lichty will start 15th. Chris Boersma all the way back in 19th place in his number 48 K-tuned car. Samuel Engelbert, Drew Cleaver, Ryan Carwile, and Ryan Christoph starts 25th, Abe. So that's a big climb for him to make.
It's a huge climb. I do appreciate that Christoph's livery is almost identical to his one in real life. So that's a very, very cool translation into the virtual world.
Green flag back in the air for the, wow, we are already 4 wide in the Consolation. Look at this run up to turn 1. This is chaos. Everyone getting greedy. You have to be inside the top 10. There's a crash in the middle of the field. They're going to get them all straightened out behind him. There's a couple cars spinning. Charles Boley's one of them. Everyone's scattering. There's 2 cars around. Caleb Nichols again caught up in a turn 1 incident. Now down towards the S's. We string on through for the first time. Kavanaugh in the lead. Ratchis, Lee, Ross Smith, Zach Grant, your top 5. Oh, there goes the 28 car sideways. That's Gilsinger. He hangs on behind him. More cars slipping and sliding. And that is the 811 of Gil Winningham right in the middle of the racetrack in the S's. And Zach Grant as well. That's going to be a big disappointment for the driver from Florida.
I think it's Sam Engelbert rocking one of the original GRIDLIFE liveries that was on Andy Smedegar's Evo race car from, I think, GRIDLIFE 2 and 3 so many years ago. It's kind of nice to see that throwback.
I see where on the running order he is to get a look at that.
Looks like number 27.
20.
I think that's right.
I can find Engelbert. I'm having trouble locating him on my timing and scoring here. If I see him, we'll bring him up. But in the meantime, the 67 of Kavanaugh is your leader, Ratchis in second. And the transfer spot is a busy race. Jacob Bessemer is that teal 43. Right behind him, Nick Nelson in the 63. He wants in. He's going to have a look up the inside for turn 11. You see Ryan Christoph back there in 13th in that red and white car. And he's coming. Started in 25th. He gained 12 spots in half a lap. How about that?
That's a great start.
So he can just get a couple more spots. He'll be up there. Oh, he's going to get one of them. DiPietro spun at the exit at 15. Couple cars going to go on by, and if DiPietro drops out of the top 10, that's going to be a disastrous race for him. Still holds on to 8th now. Here comes Bessemer and King, 9th and 10th. And it's like you can see the shark fin in the water. The Jaws music plays as they all try to close in on DiPietro, but Bessemer hangs on to that 10th spot. Nick Nelson in that black and white 663, the kind of the zebra pattern. He is the odd man out right now, and everyone behind him will not get to race tonight. For the lead, side by side, Kavanaugh and Ratchis. Oh, Ratchis kind of disappearing there. Internet connectivity problems. Jeff Lee has Michael Ross Smith up the inside, and a little bit of contact, pushing and shoving. Everyone's got their elbows out here, Abe. This is, for them, this is the most important thing going on right now. There's Christoph going for 12th. He's got it. If he can just clear the 917 of Drew Cleaver, but they're going to run side by side. Oh, man. I'm nervous.
Looks like a clean pass here, able to make the pass and make the maneuver and move on to the next competitor.
Nick Nelson just needs to pass one car and he's locked in. That car right there, an Arizona sponsor machine, that's Jacob Bessemer. He is the last transfer car. Oh, look at Derek King right in front of him. That's that black 86. He was all out of shape at the top of the hill, but Val DiPietro's gone back through. He's going to look up the inside in turn 11. That's a way late move. But he got it done. What a pass there.
Wow. What a pass.
Jacob Bessemer.
Not making it easy, though. He's coming right back.
Yeah, you see Val DiPietro line him up, drafting. Going to go back to driver's right now, back to driver's left. Now, general rule here, Abe, just like in the real world, one move that is not in reaction to the trailing car, that's fair game. Once you start reacting, then that's a block and can be penalized for that. So, into turn number 12 now. Oh, where is, I lost Ryan Christoph. He's all the way down in 21st place, so I think he's gone around for a loop. Potentially in turn number, oh, this is actually earlier. This is at the exit of the S's here. Back a little farther. Was there contact maybe with the 917? Oh, just got out wide, just slipped. And overcorrected.
Oh, jeez. Overcorrected.
Up over the top of the gravel trap, so he was close to working his way in, but isn't going to be able to make it. Now Drew Cleaver is caught back up to Derek King, and he and that black number 86 going for that teal car. That is the 10th spot. That is the transfer position. Now around the outside, oh, it looks like the 86 has some damage. Going to head to pit lane, and that looks like that's his chances of racing tonight in the feature. They're over.
Never a good thing to see, but sometimes it happens.
No. And fighting with some engine issues, it looks like, so he'll have to return to pit lane. Meanwhile, for third, Jason Kavanaugh, that's that white 67. Miles Gilsinger up the inside in turn 1. Gilsinger jumps the curb and just clears the 67 on corner exit. That's Jeff Lee in the green 49 right behind him. Eric McFarland is the white and black car at the tail of this group. This is so much of a rhythm section here, Abe. You're just trying to thread the car through here and line yourself up to hit the apex of the next corner. So it feels like almost every corner is a compromise through here.
Absolutely. I think you're focused on just minimizing your mistakes and carrying as much speed as possible as you can, because you're not really racing through here as much as you could just be losing time to people who are doing it better.
Some drivers race competitors, some drivers race the track. And Gilsinger's racing a competitor right now. How about for second place? A move down the inside.
Coming through the inside here, it looks like he's going to take that line, and we'll see if he's able to hold it.
It's like he's got it. Back to the transfer spot. Bessemer still got it. Cleaver has fallen off just slightly. He can almost taste that transfer position. It's 1.8 seconds in front, but he's pulling on a line now. Not sure if he's trying to break the draft, but I think we got a lot of time left in this race. I mean, I guess not a lot by some people's standards, but at COTA and an MX-5, it's a lot of time. To draft back, bring Charles Boley with you, and then draft up to the group in front, but they might give up too much time to make that work. Gilsinger Goes wide again in turn, Kavanaugh's around in turn 12. And you see DiPietro go around the outside. And he's now down in 10th spot. So Kavanaugh is now in danger of losing the transfer position. And he will.
These short races, even one small mistake can really make or break your entire race. It's you got to be absolutely perfect to be excelling here.
And Cleaver goes on through. So with that spin, Kavanaugh now is out of the transfer spot. Let's go back and see what happened to the 67. If there was contact or if he just spun out here all on his own. Here's a look. Turned in a little early and just carried too much speed in there, Abe.
Yeah, I think it's a hard lesson to learn, but in this thing, you've got to kind of do your best to save the race whenever you can.
Now we got the 63 of Charles Boley in this group, so they're all fighting for that transfer spot. 2 laps to go at the front of the field. And this group right here, this trio, whoever leads this group at the end of this race will get to race in the 20-minute feature. Kavanaugh has it for now. Gonna throw a little bit of a block down into turn 1. Cleaver really compromised his exit there to try to get an aggressive entry, and Charles Boley goes on through. I know Ryan Kristoff is a little ways back, but he's charged back to 14th place after his spin, so I don't think he's going to transfer in, but he's put on a heck of a show considering his spin down in turn 11. Bob Casera in the 45, jumping the curbs right in front of him, and again, compromising every corner, but we have a battle for the lead yet again. Miles Gilsinger now is caught. George Ratchis is 34. You see Miles Gilsinger tracking out a little bit farther on corner entry. Look at the run he gets at the exit. That was an excellent setup, and he'll have a look at the lead here.
Much better setup coming out of that corner. It seems like he's going to make a solid run here before the break zone.
We're going to drag race down the backstretch, and I think he might actually clear Ratchis before they get to turn number 12, and Ratchis has the preferred line, though, so he might be able to recomplete this pass on the inside. And late on the brakes, looks like he's going to get it done, and through he goes into the lead again, but Miles Gilsinger back on the inside. They make contact. And looks like they're going to cross over again. Some great battling for the lead as they run to turn 13 and 14.
Fantastic racing. What an incredible spectacle.
And Ratchet really struggling with internet as well as track limits. He's going to push Gilsinger out wide, side by side for the lead here, coming to the white flag this time through. Right up to the rear bumper of that 28 car, lining him up for maybe a pass in 19. Here he comes. Gilsinger, oh, they're going to get hooked together. And Ratchis goes sailing off course, but he gets it back on and takes the lead back. These two are getting their elbows out, getting really physical at the front of the field.
Well, I guess it's no time like the present. You know, looks like we're coming up on the last lap here. Is that right?
Yes, now we finally have the white flag, and I'll help Tombo set these sessions up next week so we get the proper text when we get the white flag. But now we have one more lap, 3.5 miles left. Ratchis goes defensive down into turn number 1. Gilsinger going to try to cross him over at corner exit. There he goes up the inside. Pass for the lead complete as they head down to turn 2.
Man, if these guys trade positions anymore the rest of this lap, I think it's just going to be incredible.
I mean, really, this doesn't really mean a whole lot. Again, the battle is to just be inside the top 10. Yeah, this might help your starting position. Look at Ratchis take a whole bunch of curb there. But this really doesn't mean a whole lot other than bragging rights. And I think Ratchis wants it as bad as Gilsinger does.
I think it's just good racing.
And Michael Ross Smith is now in this group. He's got some damage on the nose of that car that'll hurt the straightaway performance, but he might have a look at the end of the long back straight. Meanwhile, back in 10th, Charles Boley goes through. This is the transfer position fight. Boley in the black 63 and Kavanaugh in the white 67. Boley started in 11th. He only had to gain one spot. He has done it. Meanwhile, we were asking if they trade positions again. Well, how about that, Abe? They're going to run side by side on the backstretch again.
Can you believe it?
Nose to tail, Gilsinger, Ratchis, Ross Smith, and now watch Smith because he's going to be coming with a huge head of steam here with draft from 2 cars.
Now Ratchis looked like he didn't get quite the incredible start out of 11. So I'd be really surprised to see him make a pass here.
Up the outside goes the 34 into the braking zone for 12. Oh, he's big slide at the exit of 12. Here comes Ross Smith now for second. I think Gilsinger might have this one wrapped up if these two fight, but the 34, big slide through 13. He wants it back bad.
Taking a really wide line through here, the stadium section. We'll see if that's going to cost him.
Yeah, I think it definitely is, but Gilsinger ran wide as well, so if he has a poor carousel section, that could bring Ratchis and Smith right back into the group. Meanwhile, behind him, Charles Boley and Kavanaugh continue their battle for the transfer position. Boley has it, Kavanaugh needs it. And they race. Oh, look at the big run for the 67 out of the corner. The 63 is going to hold him off course. Now gives him the space to race. They're side by side up at the front. Gilsinger's going to come on through. We're going to put our attention, as soon as these guys come through the final corner, we want our attention back on 10th because that is the transfer spot. Gilsinger, Ratchis, they come through the final corner. Kavanaugh is turned around. He's spun. And that'll mean Charles Boley will come on through and collect the final transfer position. Ryan Christoph will come up 3 seconds short in 11th. That is disastrous for Kavanaugh on the 67. Let's go back and take a look at how this happened. Was there contact here? Oh, there was.
Looks like driver's front, just a little bit enough to unsettle the car and cause a spin.
Now here's another look at it. He tracked out super wide. You see him loose, and he's going to try to gather the car back up right here. Slip slide, and right there's the contact. Nothing that the 63 did wrong. That was just Kavanaugh fighting the car and got loose and ended up out of the race. So he'll come to a stop. A disappointing end. He will not make the feature event. But Gilsinger wins by a second over Ratchis, and now it's the main event. 20 minutes on tap. Dave, we've seen a lot of racing, but now it's the big show. 40 drivers lined up for this one.
It's going to be a lot of really great racing. I think at every spot on the grid, there's going to be a tight battle.
So, well, we got a moment to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the GRIDLIFE YouTube channel for more of this content. It'll be 3 more rounds of the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup. If you're on Facebook, make sure you like the Facebook page. And if you're on Twitch, be sure to follow GRIDLIFE, GRIDLIFE Official, so that you can keep up with all of the GRIDLIFE iRacers actions. So 40 drivers on the grid, and now we line up for a 20-minute event. And this is going to be a good one. At the front of the field, Ken Ausiel and DJ Alessandrini are going to headline this. There is your starting lineup on the left-hand side of the screen. Tom O'Gorman starting in third. And I'm a big fan of starting on the inside lane here in turn 1 because everybody, the natural kind of the blend of the corner takes you wide at corner exit. And if everyone goes out there, that's where all the crashes are going to happen, is out to driver's right. So if I'm Tom O'Gorman, if I'm Jeremy Swentz, if I'm Austin Cobber, Andrew Pilata, any of those drivers that inside lane, I'm hugging that curb on the inside and staying there so I don't get myself caught up in any collisions. You just have to make sure that you get there first so no one dives up underneath you.
Yeah, I think you have the opportunity. You control your own destiny in that spot where if cars are starting to push wide, you have the ability to tighten things back up and stay out of trouble.
Here we go. Time to go racing. The GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup, round number 1 from Circuit of the Americas, and GRIDLIFE Gaming presents round 1 from COTA. Green flag flies, and we're racing in the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup, and everyone runs down to turn 1, slamming the gears in their 180 horsepower MX-5s.
We'll see how many drivers can take a clean line through here, turn 1, and stay out of harm's way.
Oh man, that is a wild sight to see. 2 and 3 wide as they come through turn 1. So far, I don't see a single car turned around. That is spectacular stuff. Now through turn 2, everybody trying to get single files. We head through the S's for the first time. Oh, Ausiel, big bobble at the front. He'll get back on course, but he'll leave himself vulnerable to DJ Alessandrini. Brandon Abbott, a big jump over the curbs in the background. And everybody, there's Marcus Luttrell off on the runoff area. And there's a car way at the back that it looks to be potentially Tony Chow, or maybe that's Elias Roman. Yes, it's Elias Roman's 99. He's got big damage on that car as we head down the hill into turn 11 for the first time. Couple cars.
The cars single fire coming through here to turn 11. We'll see who sets it up.
Andrew Pilata had to give up a couple spots. He was cut a corner in turn number 10, so he'll have to drop to the tail. And it's really disastrous to get one of those slowdown penalties on the opening lap when everyone's so close together. You lose a lot of spots. Meanwhile, for Hausil and Alessandrini, they're nose to tail, and they're going to work together. No, they're going to fight for it. Here they go, side by side towards turn 12.
It looks like DJ was able to stick it here.
Tom O'Gorman out wide, see the sun, but it looks like Hausil's going to have a run back down the inside into turn 13. They're run door to door. Car in the round in the background, it's Jacob Price. He's gone for a loop. And one of the cars that transferred in, that's that Arizona liveried car. Luke McGrew in the middle of it all in 20th right now. At the front of the field, there are your leaders, top three. Alessandrini, Hausil, and O'Gorman, all together.
Separated by, I think, 3/10.
All within 3/10. The two leaders are so close that our timing and scoring doesn't even show gaps that are that small when they're on live timing like that. So less than 1/10 of a second between Hausil and Alessandrini as they come out of the final corner for the first time. Rob Casera in 4th, Swenson in 5th. Then it's Catil, Patrick Gallagher, Paul Darling, Austin Cobb, and Travis Schwenke, the rest of your top 10 as we complete lap number 1.
We'll see what they do as they make their way up to turn 1.
Whoa, wow, Hausil holding Alessandrini tight. This is just, it's just planning stages. Are Hausil and Alessandrini going to work together? We've seen them in the past in GRIDLIFE iRacers and in a bunch of the other series that we do on Sim TV, that these two guys will work together quite a bit. They kind of know how Miata races are supposed to go. Both of these drivers have owned ND Miatas, that actually I believe Ken currently owns an ND Miata. So they're both very familiar with the platform. So they know exactly what this car needs in order to win one of these races. Jonathan Davis has spun in the 27th spot. We're going to keep the cameras up front for now.
It looks like 10 cars all in the same frame. Everybody's chasing here.
I'm seeing all the way back to, I think, Andrew Lanning is the last car in that 18. Steve Fakashi is the car I was looking at, the 00, the green car. Really kind of I think we have kind of a 6-car breakaway, kind of ending with Catil, and it's a short route back to find Gallagher and Paul Darling. This is the fight for 7th. There's Austin Cobb in the 36 as well. And it's just very orderly. Again, this is so much like chess. Or even poker. You're just trying not to show your cards here early. Don't show anybody the pace you have. Let's just kind of run in line all together, work together to break away from the rest of the field. And that's what Hausil and Alessandrini are going to try to do, but they haven't been able to shake O'Gorman. Oh, contact there, and Hausil's going to spin off the bumper of the 94.
Looks like O'Gorman made the contact there.
Yep. And, oh, they're up front. They're still battling. O'Gorman now swamped by the 3 of Swenson. We'll go back and take a look at the contact. Hausil drops all the way to 15th spot. Here is a look as they came into turn 13. I think Tomo gets in here a little bit deep and just tags the 23. Sends him around. Just an innocent little contact there, but I'm sure Ken won't be thrilled back at home in Pennsylvania. Fight for second. Casera, O'Gorman, Swenson, and Catil's at the back of that shot. And now Alessandrini is all by himself, and he's got a 1.1 second lead. He's not out of the draft here, Abe, but he can shake these guys if he plays his cards right and just tries to break this draft. And if these second and beyond battles, then they will lose DJ Alessandrini. He will be able to cruise to an easy victory tonight if they let him do that.
Yeah, let's see how drivers 2 through 7 really get along and see if they can close the gap back up.
Stephen Couliari's around in turn number 1. I heard an engine blow. I think that was the 27 car, just an early downshift, and that's something, obviously, that's a little bit different from the real world, Abe, is when you downshift in one of these cars, you don't have the feedback from the shifter to tell you what you're about to do is going to blow the motor. So if you put the car in gear and you over-rev it, it will explode your transmission and your motor, and that's what happened. It looks like on the 27 car. You heard the explosion sound in the background. Oh, big jump for Swenson over the curb, and here comes Catil up the inside, opportunistic pass, down turn 10.
Until now, up to 4th. Is that right?
Yeah, the 4th place for Catil. And Swenson back to 8th place with that bobble that he had. And Alessandrini has a 1.1 second lead still. And now we're going to see if Tomo can close this gap. How far back is the draft effective in these cars? We're about to find out. Right on board with Tomo. Look at the speedo on the left, the RPM in the middle, the gear on the right. 9/10 of a second now. 8/10 of a second. 7/10 of a second. He closes in the draft. Hard on the brakes. No, that's going to be a kind of a lousy exit, but he did enough to close the gap back to DJ. And I think DJ will have to get reeled back in here. It's so hard to break away in the draft. Big group back here fighting for about 10th or 11th spot. There's Lanning, Hausil, Kachi, Chow, Emil Tabs in this group. You see him in the number 42. That's the painted like his real world Miata. His NA that he's supposedly getting K-swapped. There's Zach Rubin, a bit of a push for the 68 car of Tony Chow.
Amazing to see Swenson with just a tiny bobble drop as many positions as he did. Even though this race is short on a relative basis, you know, everybody is absolutely sprinting, and there is no margin for error at all if you want to be at the front.
Yeah, and I think that just goes to show you how close it is. And so Swenson falls to 8th, and he hasn't been able to make any of that time back. Meanwhile, there is trouble. Ooh, that's Andrew Abbott in the 25 car. Let's see how he got himself turned around. There was actually 2 separate incidents here. Abbott, I wonder if there's contact here, if he just gets loose. Oh yeah, the 53 is going to hook him around. That 53 driven by Eric Pennington. In the background, you saw Miles Gilsinger, I believe. Yes. Let's go back and take a look at what happened to the 28. He just gets loose, just steps out on him. And we saw this actually happen to DJ in, I think it was GRIDLIFE Touring Cup race number 3 at COTA in February. Almost lost control of Derek's NC Miata in the carousel. Kind of hit a bump funny. I think he also kind of had a weird downshift is what led him kind of sideways, but very real situation that just happened to Gilsinger.
Top 5 cars here continuing to battle. Nobody making it easy.
Alessandrini leads, Tomo Gorman in second. He has closed that gap now down to less than 3/10 of a second. It is a 5-car breakaway. 5th place, Austin Cobb, kind of tailing up this group right now. You notice how everyone is so even in line. Luke McGrew has gone around in the 29 car. Oh, that's big damage to him. And this race is going to end early for Luke. Let's go back and see what happened to the 29. Oh, it was Zach Rubin that spins and collects him at corner exit. And oh, wow, got up on the side of the car there for a second, but McGrew, his race will be over.
At this point, he's probably just excited that it's not thousands of actual dollars to repair that damage.
Absolutely, and that's the one, really the great thing about sim racing is you get to race at any track in the world, and when you crash, you just hit the reset button and do it all over again. Schwenke and Swenson having a little bit of contact. That's for 8th. Heard the sheet metal mashing in the background. You see the damage on the 016 on that right front fender. Emil Tab, Andrew Pilata there, battling for 14th spot. And Alessandrini continues to lead this race, and he and Tomo, kind of the masterminds of this whole situation. They are so talented and so good, and I'm just expecting that these two will probably be, you can just flip a coin and one of these two drivers could win it. But the real wild card is Rob Casera. We know Catil kind of runs right next to Alessandrini and Gorman, but Casera doesn't race with these guys quite as much as Catil does. So I think that's the blue car 3rd in line is kind of the wild card as we enter these last couple laps here. We have 9 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. Now to turn 1, DJ runs a little wide again. And the top 5 stream through the S's.
Keep things tidy here and set yourself up on the way into turn 10 and get a good, clean break through 11 so that you can make your pass coming out of 11 down into 12.
Casera, take a look up the inside of Tomo. Let's see a flash of the brake lights there for a moment. Just tapping the brakes. Make sure that he didn't run into the back of the 194. And for Tomo Gorman, also the last couple weeks, running Valvoline colors because he is now a brand new Valvoline esports driver. So congratulations to Tomo on that new partnership he's got with Valvoline. And this weekend, the SCCA's got a really entertaining Valvoline Pro Series race that'll have drivers like Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Alessandrini, O'Gorman, and more. That'll be on the SCCA's YouTube channel on Saturday this weekend. We'll also be producing that stream. So a lot going on in the world of Sim TV right now. But top 5 actually make it 6th breakaway because Paul Darling is at the tail end of this. Swenson back in 7th. This is a 3-car group with Swenson, Cathers, and Schwenke.
So Swenson was able to make up 1 spot here, but a long gap coming into Darling in 6th position. We'll see if he's able to close that up in the next 4 laps.
A little bit of crowding between Andrew Lanning and Tony Chow there. Lanning wasn't really willing to give Chow the red paint to race, and the red paint is not legal track surface here in iRacing. You step out of bounds there. Oh, they're gonna be 3 wide, bit of contact into 12. See Fakachi backs out, does the over-under. Through back to 10th, make that 12th place rather. Now sets its sights on the inside of Tony Chow. Great battle here. This is all for about 11th spot.
Coming through this stadium section, it's really awesome to see drivers go door to door because the race positions change so frequently here.
You saw a little bit of contact there with Steve Fakachi and Lanning. Emil Tab's now in this group with Andrew Pilata. They're going to run side by side through the carousel. That's been a trouble spot tonight for a couple of drivers. Hug the inside curbing here, and that's actually one thing about Kona that is quite nice compared to tracks like Road Atlanta or Road America. The curbing here, with the exception of those yellow anti-cut curbs, the red and white ones are actually quite flat, and they really aren't that rough, so you can use these to kind of help hook the car around. And it really won't damage your car.
Definitely just a different challenge. I think going into a place like Road America and attacking curbs like that is a pretty good way to mess up your car.
Yeah, those are incredibly rough, and even Road Atlanta too. Those are pretty tall. Maybe not the kind of the FIA standard ones that you see in 10A and 10B, but the ones you see down the S's. Those are really kind of mess you up if you're in compression in the wrong spot. So front group still battling top 6 as they thread through the S's. 6.5 minutes to go. Look at Paul Darling jumping the curves. And those are the ones that will mess up your suspension and set your steering off by a whole bunch of degrees.
Now, drivers who do suffer that kind of damage during this race, are they just kind of hobbling along at that point after the fact?
Yeah, you can, depending on how badly it's damaged, you can kind of hang on to it and drive with it sideways, but it's not comfortable to do. You can come on down to pit lane and repair that car, but in a 20-minute race, it's really not worth it. It's either bad enough to retire or you just kind of deal with it. I mean, that's kind of the situation you're in here.
You can tell this is a true GRIDLIFE race by seeing all those motorhomes in the background. It seems like GRIDLIFE has become a haven for 20 to 25-year-old motorhomes. It's I myself am an owner of a gigantic vehicle that I never thought I'd have.
Well, battle for 2nd place. You got to get Adam Jabay on here. You guys talk about motorhomes. or watch the Slip Angle podcast. There's plenty of that there as well. Look at this battle. And now it's starting to spice up a little bit. 2 and 3 wide for a moment. And Tom O'Gorman must have a cut course because he's dropped now down to 6th place. Had to give up a couple spots. Move Alessandrini back to 2nd as Casera goes to the lead. Catil moves his way into 3rd place. Austin Cobb now to 4th. And Alessandrini wants it back. Catil actually went down a gear to try to get some extra torque. And Austin Cobb took advantage of that, going to swing to drivers left through the carousel. This isn't a great place to make a pass on the outside here, but if you can stay alongside, you can have a run down into turn 19.
Until up into 3rd position now, we'll see if that can come together, coming through 19 and 20 on the way up to turn 1.
Alessandrini, big lunge, but stays in behind. A little bit of contact between Cobb and I think that was Darling maybe. Those front 6 still nose to tail. I'm wondering if DJ is one of those guys that'll say he'll work with you, but he doesn't like sitting in 2nd for very long. You see Casera going defensive, and DJ's going to go to driver's right, get the tires up on the curbs. They're going to run side by side into turn 1. Austin Cobb took a look at Catil, and Casera's way out wide. Catil had a stab at 2nd, unable to complete that pass for 4th place behind him. Cobb and Darling now stringing back together. They'll get back in line where they were.
It looks like that angle actually cost him a little bit of time. It was closer coming up into 1, and on the exit, like Casera had a bigger gap than before a corner entry.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see as they come down, you see the in the background there, the tall spectating tower. And big jump over the curb for Casera as they work through turns 8, 9, and 10. And it really is a front 6 breakaway. Deeper in the field, there are battles throughout the rest of the track. Kind of small groups of cars here. There's Nichols, Pennington, and Kevin Zhu, 16th through 18th. And another little cluster behind Charles Bully. There's Ryan Kristoff, who I thought was supposed to get eliminated, but I guess there was an extra spot in the feature race, so he got to go on through. Third place, how about this? All together, contact, pushing and shoving. Cobb goes up to second place. You pull away for 1 second, and now they're all together. Look at this mess.
Looks like Cattell tapped Alessandrini in the rear right there, so we'll hope that neither of those two suffered any damage.
It doesn't really look like it. They should be okay, but this is why you can't pull the cameras off the leaders, because as soon as you do, they start doing this sort of thing. Cattell's going to have a look down the inside of Paul Darling into turn 11. Look at Alessandrini later on the brakes than Cassera. Into turn 12. This is such a tight corner. Cassera's going to carry more speed on track out. Cattell almost loses it. Full opposite lock for a moment. He'll drop now down to 5th and out of 6th as Tom O'Gorman goes up the inside. A little bit of contact between Darling and Cobb. More pushing and shoving. Now it's two groups of 3. So Cassera, Alessandrini, and Cobb, and then Darling, O'Gorman, and Cattell. You have to be careful not to let these groups separate. 2 minutes and 47 seconds to go. And I've been really amazed at how clean this racing has been all the way down the field. We've only seen a handful of incidents. Still have 32 drivers running on the racetrack out of the 40 that started. Gorman and Cattell side by side. This is for 5th. And move O'Gorman up the spot. Austin Cobb now. He's a really dangerous driver to have sitting in 3rd. As we get the white flag this time through here, Abe.
Final lap. I'm sure there will be no shortage of fireworks here with 6 drivers.
And Alessandrini goes way up the inside as they go through turn 1. That's going to open up to Cobb on the inside groove, though. They're going to run side by side at turn 2. Cobb has drivers left, but now has to tuck back in line. You can't really hang out there in turn 2. Now, this is all just setting up for the back straightaway. This is what everyone's doing. The problem with COTA in a car like this is that in most cars, turn 12 at the end of the back straight would be the last opportunity to make a pass. That's not true of these cars. They're slow enough and racy enough that we can see a pass all the way to the last corner. So I'm not sure that you want to be even leading coming through the stadium section. I think you want to be second all the way to that final corner.
Absolutely, and we saw it on the last lap where Alessandrini tried to set up to make the pass in 12, but given his position on track, or his placement on track, had basically made the pass, but it lost it immediately after because Cassera came through cleaner right after 12.
Cobb goes to second up the inside. Alessandrini way late apex. He'll get the run on the back straight, but Cassera starting to pull away. So these two need to figure out which one's going to take the fight to that leader, Rob Cassera. Behind him, Darling and O'Gorman. They're going to get nose to tail. Maybe they can draft up to this battle for second, but everyone's following the 177. There's that chess match I'm talking about. Where do you place your car? Side by side for second. Cobb still has the nose ahead. Alessandrini now gets in the braking zone a little bit deep, though. Cobb's going to cross him over. Great run for the 36. Alessandrini back up the inside, though. They continue to battle for position. Cassera loves this. He can just drive away when these two are fighting like this. How easy this would be to just drive away, but no, Cobb goes to second, Alessandrini falls to 3rd. All the way out to the gravel trap. Tomo wants 4th. Paul Darling shuts the door. A massive scrap in the top 6, but Rob Cassera has the lead by half a second. I don't think Cobb's close enough, but they're all going to try. 2 more corners in the first round of GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup. Cassera runs a little bit wide in 19, coming back to the checkers this time through. Checkered flag waving, Cobb in second place. As they come to the start-finish line, Rob Cassera is going to come out of the corner, and he's going to win the first round of the series. Behind him, Tomo and Eric Cattell tangle as they back across the line, nose to nose. And for 6th place, make that 7th. Oh, they're going to get together there. They've already come across the lines. Jeremy Swenson, 7th place. Steve Ficacci. Actually, Ken House-Seal. Wow, there's big contact there. Ken House-Seal, 8th. James Cathers, 9th. Ficacci in 10th. Chow, Pilata, Lanning, Schwenke. Bill Tab actually had 13th spot as well. So Rob Cassera, the ultimate winner at the end of that thing. But they...
Fantastic race for Cassera. Very, very consistent, very clean, all the way through start to finish.
It was a really good race for Cassera, but I just have to wonder, Cobb and Alessandrini, they knew when they were fighting that they were going to give that up. to Casera if they were going to continue battling, and they never got undone from each other. So that was what caused that incident, or caused Casera to be able to drive away. So there are your race results scrolling on your screen. Casera led 3 laps, and get this, Abe, didn't even record a best lap time because all of his laps had track limits violations in iRacing. So again, the 1X that I was talking about earlier, when you run outside of those white lines, they don't necessarily penalize you for it, but they will not count your lap towards your best lap of the session. So Casera didn't even record a best. So Casera, Cobb, Alessandrini, Darling, and O'Gorman, your top 5. Catil back in 6th. Swenson, Hausil, Cathers, and Fikachi, the rest of your top 10. We're going to talk to your podium finishers, so don't go anywhere just yet. In the meantime, subscribe to the GRIDLIFE YouTube channel, like the Facebook page, and also follow if you're watching on Twitch. And we'll scroll through the rest of the order here, Abe. But first round done. We head to Mid-Ohio next week. Your thoughts on the first round of GRIDLIFE Quarantine Cup?
It's quite a spectacle. It's really great to see, drivers that I've seen and interacted with personally, but also race here, doing a different kind of racing, and time attack drivers making their way into Wheel-to-Wheel series.
Yeah, I think time attack drivers, Austin Cobb did pretty well tonight in second place. I want to talk about Jeremy Swenson in 7th. How about him having a good night? We saw the issues for Luke McGrew. He was running up inside the top 20 before that contact with Zach Rubin that took him out of the race. But all the way down, the drivers that didn't have a great night, George Fike, Jacob Bessemer, Jeff Lee, they were the last 3. Patrick Gallagher also finished down in 35th place in his number 14 car. Ruben Luttrell, 32nd and 33rd. Brad Adams finished 27th, so he didn't really get the night that he wanted, but up front and all throughout the field, some really good battles. So we're going to step away for a break for just a minute. Stay with us. We'll be right back with interviews in just a moment. Welcome back live to GRIDLIFE Gaming and the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup. We're here now with our 3rd place finisher on the night, DJ Alessandrini. DJ, you finished this race out in 3rd spot. It was a battle with Austin Cobb coming to the checkers that maybe gave up a chance at the win, but you led some laps and at least had a lot of fun out there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun tonight, and honestly, probably the most enjoyable parts of the night was watching that Consolation Race. That race was nuts. That was probably the most entertaining race of the night, honestly.
Talk to me about the start of this race, because we knew it was going to be hectic, but I mean, were you planning on racing was this any different, I guess, is my question, from any other normal race, or are you just having fun racing every second, or are you tucking in line behind Hausil, behind Casera, and just trying to run to the checkers and then do the battle in the last lap like you're used to doing?
I mean, I'm trying to win. Where I attacked Ken, I was hoping would instigate some shenanigans behind me, and it did, but it didn't open up enough of a gap for me to run away with it and make the race boring, which is my ultimate goal. Trying to win the race is for it to be boring. But it just didn't work out that way. Tom caught me back up again, which brought everybody else with, and then it was a fight. And Casera ran a really great race, and yeah, Austin, he had every right to fight me. I didn't have a good run into the S's on the last lap, and he had a great run going toward 11, which is the hairpin before the long back straight. And I was telling him, I think if he worked with me there, we could have been 3 wide going into 12, and that would have been great fun. But we ended up just battling for second, and it was, I mean, the racing was honestly pretty clean. I saw some incidents behind me, but it was really fair and clean from all the guys up front, and that's always just a lot of fun.
I want to know from your perspective, kind of as one of the administrators of all this, your thoughts on how the night ran. It looked relatively smooth from our perspective. How was it for you?
It was a little chaotic, just some anxiety because we've never ran this format before. But after sitting in Discord with your friends and watching your other friends race and seeing people get TV time that normally don't get TV time, man, I think it's gonna be hard to go back to any other format, especially like those guys in the Consolation Race, when they go back and watch themselves racing close, hard, and clean, fun racing in that Consolation Race. It's got to be like a shot of heroin, right? Like they're just going to be addicted. Like the fire's under them now. Like I know that's what got me hooked. Like was seeing the stream and seeing me battle. It's addicting. And the more people we can get to be fanatics about this, the better in my mind. Just because we'll just make this GRIDLIFE iRacer group just the best group to go iRacing with.
DJ, thanks for setting all this up. Good run night, and we'll see you next week at Mid-Ohio.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Always appreciated.
Sure thing. All right, we're going to have next in here, it looks like it's going to be Austin Cobb joining us in the booth. Austin finished second in his number 36. It was a battle of the checkers with DJ Alessandrini, but it let Rob Casera kind of slip away. Austin, walk us through the race and that battle of the checkers with DJ.
Oh, man, what a race. That heat race, I was kind of expecting to just sit up front and with Ken, and we were just going to run away with it. But I got that cut penalty and put myself in a battle. So starting back in P7, P8, wherever I was just trying to be patient and, pick up any spots where I could. Got a couple of lucky breaks with guys getting cut penalties, moving up, and just one by one pick people off. But there at the end, I kind of wanted to work with DJ, push him up into Robert, but the way it worked out, I just, I came from 8th. I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the second place, and attacked in turn 11. Robert gave me the draft, and the rest was kind of history, kind of dicing it up.
Talk to me a little bit about the format for tonight, and when you were kind of racing in those heat races, how much more intense is that than a typical qualifying session for you, or is it just the same with more cars out on track?
Definitely adds a degree of tension because you obviously can't make it to the main if you even make a silly mistake that just puts you in the wall, get some damage on your car, downshift too early, money shift, whatever. You don't get to go to the main race. So definitely a degree of tension there. But qualifying up front, I wasn't really too worried about it. I'm sure it's a lot more intense for the guys on the threshold there.
Austin, some incredible driving tonight. Thanks for joining us here. We hope to see you around again for round 2 at Mid-Ohio.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Move on now to our race winner tonight was Robert Casera in the number 177. Drove away in the closing laps from Austin Cobb and DJ Alessandrini, who battled side by side to the checkers. Rob led 3 laps tonight, but you led the most important one. It was the last lap. And what was going through your mind watching those two behind you battling? And when you saw them getting small in the mirror, did you think it was over by the back straight, or were you still kind of sweating when you got down to turn 20?
I knew coming down the back straight, I knew that they were going to be charging that braking zone. So my biggest concern was just making sure I hit my braking mark, got it in there quick, got it in there tighty, and drove out pretty smooth. I know guys were dive bombing the braking zones all night coming off the back straight. So I knew it wasn't going to be over until we crossed the finish line. So it was close all the way through.
The NDMX5 really likes to step out and kind of drive sideways around here. How do you manage the oversteer, especially through such a sensitive portion of the racetrack like the S's with those big anti-cut curves?
Yeah, it's a fine balancing act of making sure that you're addressing the brake properly and getting back to the throttle very smooth, and then trying to use just as much paved runoff as possible, but also managing those slowdown penalties, because as soon as you see one of those slowdowns, it's all over.
Next week, we head to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, a much smaller racetrack that's not quite so draft heavy. How different do you think that track's going to race next week compared to this one, where we saw a lot of drafting on the long straights?
Yeah, I think for Mid-Ohio, I think we're going to have some good racing there. I like to think there's more passing zones at Mid-Ohio than Coda, and a lot less of dive bomb passes. You still got the back straight at Mid-Ohio, so it's going to get interesting either way, but pretty easy to run side by side going through Mid-Ohio, so I think should make for some good racing.
Hey, Rob, congratulations on the win for the first round of the GRIDLIFE iRacers Quarantine Cup. Good luck next week at Mid-Ohio. We'll see you there.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Babe, that's going to round out the interviews for this evening. And we saw some incredible action from start to finish in all the events that we saw tonight. But next week we head to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and that's a totally different thing next week. A totally different racetrack. And I think we're going to see kind of the same good action, but in a totally different format. Or not so much drafting. It's going to be a lot more side by side, a lot more switching back, especially as we head down through the S's at Mid-Ohio and onto the backside of the course.
Yeah, absolutely. Mid-Ohio is a familiar track to a lot of our GLTC and iRacer drivers. So I think a lot of people are going to be really comfortable here, having both virtual and actual real lap experience. And it should make for some spectacular racing.
So coming up on the schedule next week will be Mid-Ohio. That's round number 2. The week after will be round 3 from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And round 4 will be in Elkhart Lakes Road America. And I'm really looking forward to that one. And a track that's a little bit more similar to this one. Long straights, but not quite so sweeping. A lot more kind of stop and start there. Road Atlanta, that's a classic. Abe, we saw GLTC there at last fall, and that was an incredible race that we saw all 4 rounds there in GLTC. So I'm looking forward to that race as well.
Absolutely. Seeing drivers see who's courageous enough to take it more than one car wide into 12 is always interesting. Absolutely.
So we'll take one last scroll through our results before we are done for the evening here, Abe. And again, at the top of the board, Casera, Cobb, Alessandrini, Darling, and O'Gorman, the rest of your top 5. Eric Catil came home in 6th, then Swenson, Hauseal, Cathers, and Ficacci. Next week, Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Make sure you're subscribed to the GRIDLIFE YouTube channel, as well as like the Facebook page and follow on Twitch to make sure that you don't miss next week. You can set reminders on YouTube by hitting the bell, and it'll tell you when the event is scheduled and when it will go live. Abe, thanks again for joining me. I hope we'll have somebody back here in the booth next week, whether it's you or Adam or Chris or somebody else that wants to jump in, but you're always welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for having me.
All right, that's going to do it now. If you're interested in us and who I am, we're SimTV. You can find us at youtube.com/SimTV Broadcasting. That's with an SYM, or at our website at simtvbroadcasting.com. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you follow all the action next week from Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We'll see you later. Have a wonderful night.